Well, it is now time for weather with Nebraska Extension Ag Climatologist and Market Journal Chief Meteorologist Al Dutcher. Al, as harvest starts to wind down, row crop producers are eyeing fall fieldwork. Many, though, need some rain first. How are things looking as we turn to the week ahead?
Well, Bryce, we certainly did see a little bit of precipitation over this last week, particularly in northeast Nebraska. Thursday when we seen that system move through the state. Outside of that area, not much in the way of major moisture. And of course, the other one was Sunday, following the cold front in southeast Nebraska after we've seen some significant fire activity, unfortunately, in southern Lancaster County. So as we go through this next 7-day period, really the precipitation opportunities are just not there. We are looking at a major system coming in for next weekend, but until then, it looks like it's going to be a fairly dry pattern. So let's take a look at the way things are going to set up. And first thing I want to show you is the official winter forecast. We're going to go through this real quick. CPC's put this out here last week. This is basically what they're thinking: cold to our north, warm to our south, and in terms of precipitation, wet on the west coast, the Great Lakes, and dry across the southern plains. So let's take a look at what's actually going on. And the first thing I'll draw your attention to is we have this upper air low that split off from a piece of energy coming out of the Central Rockies, kind of responsible for some of the precipitation we've seen on Thursday. This low is expected to move up toward the northeast and bypass us, so we're going to remain pretty much high and dry. As we go into tomorrow, basically this low opens up and heads toward the Ohio River Valley. We're left between the northern jet stream and the southern jet stream, so a pretty benign pattern. Temperatures are going to be pretty much around normal in the lower to mid 60s. And as we go into Monday, this trough lifts off and we start to see ridging temporarily starting to build into our region, which brings us a little bit warmer conditions, and that will only intensify as this trough moves down the western seaboard. So by the time we get to Tuesday, you can see this trough digging into the western United States. Warm air rises up, so we should be in the 70s across a lot of the state, and probably the mid 70s to some portions of southwestern Nebraska. Time we get into Wednesday, that piece of energy across southern Texas moves toward the southeast, and this storm really digs down the west coast, and that's going to bring some windier conditions to the plains regions, which will only intensify as we get closer to the weekend. And we look at Thursday, this low starts to make its way inroads into the southwest, keeps our winds from the south-southwest at the surface. So we're going to have a higher fire danger, and we're going to be dealing with those high winds once again. And by the time we get into Friday, GFS wants to string this low pressure system out, so there is some differences in the models whether or not this is going to progress toward the east or whether it's going to lift toward the north and east, and that makes a big bearing on who's going to get the precipitation. So we'll watch out as we get to the end of next week, because there is some signals that we will see some precipitation across Nebraska. It's just not where it's going to happen and the intensity of it, but it does look like a fairly decent opportunity for that moisture. If we look even farther out from next Thursday to the following Tuesday, the warm air pushes toward the east as that cold air with that upper air trough kind of moves in the western United States and builds toward the east. And in terms of precipitation, with that system ejecting out, wide expansive area of precipitation. The bigger question is who gets the majority of this moisture, but at least there is a shot as we go into next weekend for some decent moisture across the state.